Buonasera, amici vicino e lontano. Good evening, everybody. Do we have an episode for you of Sicilian Queens? The wonderful Councillor Lina Messina, and we have a beautiful guest, Lucia Barbera. Lucia Barbera is from Milazzo, Messina in Sicily, my mother's hometown.
And my surname, there's a connection there.
Born in Barcelona, then parents living in Milazzo, then Azzurro di Milici as a married.
She will tell you a little bit about herself, but I'm just going to read a little bit from her resume. Doctor, she is a doctor, Lucia Barbera. Currently living in Melbourne and working as a secondary latte teacher, holds a PhD, everybody, in the history of social institutions and development cooperation from the University of Messina, a Master of Teaching from Deakin University, Melbourne, and an advanced master's degree in institution and policies of human rights and peace from the University of Padua. She has worked in public and private organisations for the promotion and protection of women and children's rights. I really feel this rising up.
I feel so inadequate.
Yeah. In Veneto and in Sicily, and collaborated for different publications at various academic levels. In 2015, Dr. Barbera received a letter of commendation from the Commissioner of Messina's province as a formal and official recognition of her vast and dedicated contribution to the research and photographic documentary exhibition on the history of the foundlings and abandoned children in Messina, Sicily. Dr. Lucia is going to talk to us a little about herself and the foundlings, Figli della ruota. This is an episode, it is a mammoth episode of Sicilian Queens.
Before we go to Lucia, I think it's important, and I want to share with you that my nonno, Pippo Mazzola, Giuseppe Mazzola from Ligudea Orbea, was an orphan. So he is un figlio della ruota, and we know nothing about his maternal or paternal parents. We do know about my parents' grandmother, who actually reared him as a child. But his parents, his biological parents, we know nothing about. So this story to me is personal. Yes. I met Lucia before we went to your restaurant, and I think it's important for us as Sicilians to understand the history. This is one segment of history, one segment of its Sicilian history, but it's important because it's about generation to generation. And some of us Sicilians that have migrated from Sicily don't even know about this history of the Figli della ruota. So I am so honoured and that you're here in my home, so a casa mia, diretto c'è la Sicilia, e Lucia, la bella Sicilia nostra, della madre, and Lucia is going to tell us about the story of the children of the wheel. And what does the children of the wheel mean? It means that abandoned children were put on a wheel to be given to the nuns, to the orphanage, and then whoever wanted to adopt them went to the wheel to select. So I'm going to hand over to Lucia, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Lucia Barbera! Yay! Abbiamo un po' di vino e saluti a questa donna. Grande donna.
No, chiedete, fate domande.
Tell us dove sei nata?
Allora, sono nata a Barcellona, Pozzo di Gotto. Badate bene, Barcellona di Sicilia, non di Spagna, perché esiste una Barcellona in Sicilia.
Dov'è?
In provincia di Messina, dopo Messina è la cittadina più popolosa.
Giù?
Direzione Palermo.
A Palermo,
sì, ma comunque a 40 km da Messina, è vicinissima a Milazzo. Sì.
Bella.
La bella Milazzo.
La città bella più bella.
Per ora è estate, wow. Quindi sì, nata a Barcellona, i miei genitori sono di Barcellona, poi...
Ti voglio domandare una questione. La passione tua, in fondo di dove tu sei donna per le bambine e per le donne, da dove è cominciato questa passione?
Bella domanda, grazie. Questa passione è iniziata da sempre. Quando io studiavo alle scuole superiori mi ha sempre interessato la storia e quindi la storia delle donne. Il mio esame di maturità scritto, l'altro giorno ho rivisto un po' i saggi che ci hanno dato alla maturità e io sono stata una diciottenne che ha scelto di scrivere sulla storia delle donne e quindi già questa passione sui diritti umani, il senso di giustizia l'ho sempre avuto sin da piccola. Poi ho iniziato a studiare relazioni internazionali all'Università di Messina, studi politici internazionali e comunitari. Volevo già iniziare a studiare diritti umani all'Università di Padova, ma i miei genitori mi hanno detto: Padova ancora è troppo lontana, tu sei ancora piccolina, inizia qua a Messina, che fa pure rima, dove c'era la facoltà di scienze politiche e relazioni internazionali e quindi mi sono laureata lì e poi una volta laureata ho fatto un master degree a Padova specializzandomi in quella che era sempre stato il mio sogno, quindi in diritti umani, istituzioni politiche dei diritti umani e della pace. E poi ho avuto l'onore di finire il master e di scrivere la mia tesi con un grande professore a livello internazionale, esperto di diritti umani, il professor Antonio Papisca, che mi ha accolto come un padre a Padova, all'Università di Padova.
Come si
Io
chiama?
ero una siciliana al nord.
Come si chiama questo professore? Come si chiama?
Professor Antonio Papisca, che ha scritto libri in diritti umani, ha ispirato a livello europeo tante persone e grazie a lui si hanno tante iniziative a livello italiano, anche a livello locale. Molti comuni hanno emanato una legge per la promozione dei diritti umani. Insomma, ho avuto la fortuna di averlo come mentore in questo mio percorso a tutela dei diritti umani. Grazie a lui, ma ancora prima di laurearmi, e poi ho iniziato a interessarmi anche ai minori e a lavorare all'ufficio del pubblico tutore dei minori della Regione Veneto. E quindi ho avuto anche questa grande possibilità di lavorare all'ufficio del pubblico tutore dei minori della Regione Veneto, alla procura del Tribunale per i minorenni e poi ho lavorato anche appunto con i miei professori universitari in organizzazioni non governative con le donne, a favore dei diritti delle donne, quindi in particolare ho sensibilizzato tutti gli studenti delle scuole sulle vittime di tratta, le schiave del sesso, poi ho lavorato con le comunità africane residenti in Veneto per sensibilizzare contro le mutilazioni dei genitali femminili in progetti nazionali e regionali. Sì.
Lucia ha parlato della storia della schiava di sesso.
Sì.
Questa storia adesso in Sicilia si trova sempre. Se vai in Sicilia, si va everywhere. I see it mainly when I go to Sicily. Si vede la strada dell'aeroporto di Catania e in mezzo alla città. Allora, questa storia di sesso delle schiave era anche dei tempi i tempi di questo dei figli della ruota?
Sì, ma allora nel periodo storico, appunto nel XIX secolo, la prostituzione era legalizzata in Italia, come qua, no?
A quel tempo anche?
Sì, nel senso che è uno dei mestieri più antichi del mondo, ma la questione della schiavitù qua oggi come oggi riguarda queste ragazze nigeriane dell'Europa dell'Est che vengono vendute, loro pensano di venire in Italia a lavorare, a trovare un lavoro come cameriera, come badante, e invece poi si ritrovano a fare altro.
Okay,
Perché devono pagare un debito, ecco.
Scusa,
Ma senti, is that
I want to speak
now?
a little bit in English as well, so we can.
Is this now? Are you talking about?
Yeah. It's a social phenomenon. Yes. Regarding mainly Nigerian women or women from the Eastern Europe. Yeah.
And yet we feel like we're supposed to be in a modern world today, and all this is happening. Hey, Lina.
Look, you know, I remember coming in 2016. I went from Catania to Milidello, and we're on the road from Catania, and I'm watching the side, and my son goes, "Mamma, chi fanno queste picceride sulla strada con la sedia? Caseggia." Caseggia da strada. Yeah. E dice, zio, ma che fanno queste donne sopra la sedia? Cosa aspettano a vedere la frutta, cioè arrivare alla frutta, a vendere la frutta? Ma ci dice all'inizio, chi sono i femmine dalla strada? I go, what do you mean, zio? You would actually watch vehicles pull up by the side of the road, take the women in and speed off, or go around the back of the bushes. I was quite shocked.
Ma people should understand that they don't choose, these women don't choose to be there. They are really and actually sexual slaves, depending from others that earn money from their
passport is taken away, their residency is taken away. Yeah, anyway.
I've been dealing with these kind of topics, children rights, women rights, genital mutilation.
But something must have happened to you to trigger something like this, because this is not something that we choose. It actually chooses us.
Brava, mamma mia, tu sei, sì, è vero. It was something which was in my fate.
It's your destiny.
Sì. And I felt this during my journey. Many times I had many signals of this. Yeah, since I started, Carmela, since I started.
Okay, so it's like you've got a destiny and a purpose, and God is ordaining you to be the voice.
Yeah, in a way, yes.
In a way, that's what it is. We all have a purpose. We've all been born. We all have a journey in life. And many of us, if we don't listen to the trigger signs that come along our way, we just push them aside. But when we become aware of our journey and find things in our life, we realise that when they're there, they sometimes slap us in the face to say, you need to listen.
Because if you don't listen, and I found this myself, if you don't listen the first time, you'll deviate, the fork in the road deviates in one direction. And then you hit with that again. And if you don't take it again, you go and then you find that it's like this invisible thread that just pulls you slowly, bit by bit.
It's your purpose.
Yeah. Like, for example, and I'll bring that example, definitely. And that was our connection, how we met. And there was also like Lucia. When I met Lucia, I had no idea about her and her background and who she was. I knew her name. That's all I knew. And we met at Victoria Market, didn't we? We went to see Siesta. We met at the middle of a Siesta Cartel concert or gig.
Con la musica.
Con la musica ballammo insieme.
It's God's divine purpose bringing you two together.
But then when she told me about what her PhD was in, I went, oh, now I know. For example, I need to know, like, apart from our friendship and her knowledge, I would like to know more about my grandfather. And if I don't know his history about how he was born into this world, then how am I going to know about him? But I want to read.
There's no other person that can tell us that we know except for Lucia.
I don't know anybody else. But I want to read something to you. Sorry that I'm reading this to you. So the practice of abandoning unwanted baby is as old as history. This practice reached a peak during the 18th and 19th century in Catholic Europe, with an estimated 10 million, that's 10 million abandoned children from 1800 to 1899. And in order to cope with these high number of abandoned children, specialized institutions were established throughout Europe, including Italy. So what they did was, these institutions provided a safe shelter for the children of abandoned that abandoned them by their families. And from there, their story grows. So some of them were adopted, and I guess we'll find that out during the course of. Let's just say this is the first. Yeah, this is the first of 4
episode. Dr. Lucia is going to tell us.
Lucia is fine.
No, you've earned that right, Lucia. You've worked hard to become a doctor. You worked hard for it. You have earned.
I did with my heart, though. You know, really.
So Dr. Lucia is going to give us a PowerPoint presentation. So you'll just be seeing one we talk about the Figli della ruota, or the foundlings. She's going to do a PowerPoint, and so you'll see that. But in saying that, we'll go back to Dr. Lucia, because it's important for me and for you to understand how far you want to open up with us, you know?
Yeah. So you were asking me about the signals.
Yes.
Yeah. I can say that I dreamt. È stato in un sogno anche che ho avuto un segnale in un sogno, e sono tanti i segnali che mi hanno portato a questa ricerca. Io ho lavorato all'ufficio del pubblico tutore dei minori in Veneto, per la regione Veneto.
Possiamo fermare un minuto? In sogno. Ci puoi fare spiegare questo sogno se tu vuoi? Se non vuoi, non fa niente.
It was related to kids, suffering kids, like in need of voice. Yeah, what I remember is this.
Elena.
There was something, I tell you. Yeah, e poi tante altre cose, anyway. And throughout my research, which ended up with a public exhibition, which is now permanent at the former Brefotrofio di Messina. Now everyone can have access and look at the panels and see the registers and look for a signal to find something about their ancestors or parents.
You did that.
With the support of the Provincia di Messina, then there is now an archive. Yes.
So, and can I just ask, the archive, is it only for the region of Messina? So, for example, Catania, is there one in Catania?
There will be, okay, for the Brefotrofio of Catania, you might go to the State Archive of Catania, or to the archive of the city council, because in this case for Messina, I followed up and we ended up to rebuild the history of this Brefotrofio, thanks to my research, and now there is this archive. For the rest of Sicily, for example, I know in Syracuse, there was a research done. In Catania, there is also a research done in a way, in a general sense. So you can go to the State Archive, or if you know il paesino, you can start from there.
Okay. So what does can we go back? Ha detto una parola, è
Brefotrofio.
Cosa vuol dire?
Brefotrofio is the orphanage for newborn babies.
I never heard of that
because you know the abandoned children were mainly newborn babies.
Yes.
So it actually, if I can share the PowerPoint with you, I can start with the meaning.
Can I just say one thing and then you share the PowerPoint, all right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. You were asking me.
No.
Yeah, tell me.
things come to me and I need to say it because I feel that it's in the momentum, and if we don't, we lose that momentum. So the thing is this, you could have just denied the signs and gone on with your life, and this took you out of your comfort zone. You would have been stretched, your personality would have been challenged, and you would have really come across a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
But by doing so and continuing on the road that you believe and that we know that you were called for, you've been able to expose and to reveal and to show so much information for people that are wanting to. So where am I going to? What I'm saying is that we could all stay at home, watch television and let go. But when we step out of our comfort zone, that's where life begins. And that's where our journey's purpose starts. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's as I said, it's an invisible extra heartbeat that aligns with your own heartbeat.
Yeah.
So I think what Lucia's trying to say and what you're trying to say is that, you know, our passion drives our purpose, right? So if you're interested into something, into a particular field, and I'll pick Lucia's field for this particular conversation, it's like it's an extra heartbeat. And it's like this, as I said, it's a thread. It pulls you and it pulls you and it pulls you. And if you don't get into the core of what's happening or understanding, you're able to patch it up, but you don't become the person that you're supposed to be. And you can become a victim, or you can say, look, I'm interested in that. And you only might want to read about it. And if that's your purpose, is to read about it, then that's okay. Everybody's purpose into one particular area that they wish to have knowledge in is that particular journey, whether it's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or chapter 4. But when you find it, when you find the reason or that topic that you're really interested in, it's like you have an extra heartbeat.
No,
yes,
you actually find yourself. You find yourself and you find your passion, and then all of a sudden that's where everything starts to grow and you start to evolve as a human being.
I can understand why you say that. I think that for me, and I don't know about for you, Lucia, but I haven't found myself yet. I'm finding myself every day. Yeah, I find myself every day.
Absolutely,
and
agree.
Conversations, conversations that I've had, or phone calls, anonymous phone calls from people that I heard about you. Can you help me with this? I went to a woman's refugee today. I haven't told you that.
Oh my God. What?
I went to a woman's refugee today. I was asked to do this. Before you came, I went to a woman's refugee. And before you came, I sent an email to a friend of mine who's got a property in Croydon who wants to create a woman's refugee. And
and I've been working in this field.
And what
with
you
don't
know is that he sent me an email and says, what do we need to do to make this happen? And you don't know that. But before, while we were trialing that, he was sending me an email. And I can't tell you. So that's another, do you understand?
Yeah, I wanted to. But you are a networker. You're the mouthpiece. You're the mouthpiece of the community, Lina.
Oh,
that's
a lot.
That's a lot. But so many people, you help so many people, Lina. People call you, they ask you, but that's where you've started to find yourself in that realm. And as you find yourself in that realm, that's where you start to find those roots and they start to grow. But it's part of your journey. You never, ever get there and you never get it done. That's part of life. You're never going to get there. You're never going to get it done.
I don't Etna,
il vulcano Etna, she's Etna in person.
I'm Etna. Well, that's why my hair's red now.
La chiamo Linetna.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you think we should stop and then do the next episode.
I think we need to because we can't, I don't want to.
I just want to know a little bit more about Dr. Lucia, and then we can go into the next episode. In the next episode, tell us a little bit what brought you to Australia.
Oh, wow. So love.
L-O-V-E.
L-O-V-E. Is it enough? Okay, love in each sense. I would say love for this country. Love because my husband loved this country before me. So when I came here, I fell in love with this country too. And here in Australia, I could feel a sense of home and what I was looking for, the society and the community and the multicultural society in particular. I could breathe the air I've been always dreaming of.
Oh, wow.
So Australia has allowed you to evolve and become the person that you really wanted to be.
In a way, not yet completely.
Oh,
I'd say that.
But you're getting there. You're growing.
I felt here there is the kind of society I've been always dreaming of, the way of being, the lifestyle, many things that I really like this place. Despite, anyway, I love Italy, that is my family, everything, I grew up there. But on the other hand, I'm a very open-minded person as well. I've been studying international relations and human rights and lots of things related to people of the world that I could find the world here. I don't know if I can transmit what I felt here.
I think it's about multiculturalism, and Australia does it really well.
Sì,
si vede di tutti le fari durante la giornata, se la cultura, della landscape, le persone che vedi.
Everything, you can feel that.
You can feel multiculturalism.
May I say,
especially in Melbourne. Especially in
sì.
metropolitan Melbourne.
Sì.
Yeah.
E anche come, anyway, le cose funzionano qui. How everything works.
May I say,
the way of lifestyle and
it's a form of acceptance.
Yeah, it's a form of acceptance. Yeah.
Your acceptance
of acceptance of a human being rather than being judged by the layers or the statuses that society puts on us, whether they're cultural, religious, or sexual. And there's an acceptance. I understand that.
Yeah. Anche, I'm a school teacher. To see as students of mine, kids from any background, it's amazing to me. I feel like citizen of the world. So, and I can see the world everywhere around me.
Okay.
So how long have you still got to stay here? Can you stay?
Oh, we've got big news. Are you ready for the drum roll?
So I've just obtained a visa to stay here 2 more years, and then we will see. Yeah. So luckily, Grazie. Just a fresh news. So, sì, sono molto contenta.
Hot off the press. We just discovered it.
Yeah.
I only got told of it tonight as a surprise.
That's a great news, actually.
Wonderful.
Wait to know.
So, can I ask you a question as a teacher? As a Lote teacher, and English not being your prominent language, how did you find that transition between Sicily, when you speak Sicilia, il dialetto, no, la lingua siciliana, no il dialetto, la lingua siciliana, la lingua siciliana, la lingua italiana, e inglese, francese, spagnolo, tedesco anche, allora, quando è arrivato qui, il tuo lavoro di preferenza cos'era?
Ho iniziato a lavorare come insegnante di italiano agli adulti.
Ah, ok. E cosa?
No, a un istituto privato. Poi ho lavorato con l'Istituto Italiano di Cultura, quindi l'ICIUM, che è un istituto privato, e poi con l'Istituto Italiano di Cultura, con un Bowen Street Community Center, dove appunto lì ci sono delle persone adulti che fanno lezioni di italiano. E sì, poi ho fatto il Master of Teaching perché...
in Australia.
Perché
in Australia, she did a Master of Teaching in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia.
And can I just share with you,
Master of Teaching in Australia.
I feel so inadequate. Can I just look at his face?
Guarda, 5, because it was not enough. 5 academic titles in total. But let's see if it's enough.
Okay.
Let's see if I can stop. I can go. I have to go.
But can I just share with you one thing that I work for COASIT, Comitato di Assistenza per Italiano.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And when I met Lucia, we didn't know that at the time. She's a volunteer in our volunteer section at COASIT. That's another thing that we have in common. So,
I didn't say that when I arrived in Australia, one of the first things I started was to become a volunteer for COASIT in the visitation program for elderly people. So it's been now 5 years and a half. I'm a volunteer with a 98-year-old lady.
So she volunteered 1 hour a week to a 98-year-old Italian lady.
98 anni.
98 anni.
Do you know how much life a 98-year-old woman has?
A lot.
A lot, let me tell you.
From Calabria.
Oh.
You know, I'm learning even another language. Calabrese.
Okay.
So she would speak Calabrese di 100 anni fa, non ancora.
Yeah, in a way. Sì, lei è venuta qua nel 55. Quindi, yes.
So that makes you more of a humanitarian in the heart as well.
I have that in my blood, let's say that. In every sense. That is why it was my mission, you know. I wanted to go. Yeah. And I've been working with unaccompanied children coming to Sicily by boat without parents, with refugee kids.
Wow!
And I was a volunteer since I arrived in Australia with refugee kids in Australia. I arrived.
Instead of talking, can we talk about your time in the next episode, if you don't mind? I would really love to talk to you about the children with the refugee kids, just even if it's just an introduction before we talk. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Okay.
It's, you know, because it's what we're doing is looking at every layer that Lucia has, and I think that's a really important layer, even if you spend a few minutes on that.
Yeah.
Well, we could do it at the end, actually. Facciamo quella fine della ruota e facciamo alla fine, facciamo quello.
I think there is a connection with this because I ended up to, after my research, you know, looking for information about kids of the past, trying to give them a voice because they were abandoned. They were forgotten, you know, and in this case, there was a voice for them. So after there was, anyway, a public exhibition on this, everything became public, thanks, you know, to some people of the provincia di Messina, il dirigente Gabriele Schifiliti, il commissario allora appunto alla provincia di Messina Filippo Romano, and tutto il personale. We worked all together as a team very hard to create this public exhibition. And then in the meantime, you know, I was working with NGO for children who arrived in Messina, in Sicily by boat. So in the meantime, I was looking after this exhibition related to the kids of the past, abandoned, but I was working night and day as an educator for the nowadays children in need you know, in Messina. I felt like everything is interconnected.
I have to do your natal chart. I have to do your astrology natal. I just have to.
So it was just something. I think so connected.
It's connected.
Yeah. And when I started this topic was because I was working, as I told you, for children's rights at the Ombudsman office of the Regione Veneto. And I was looking after these kids that were abandoned when newborn babies are abandoned by parents. In Italy, there is a law, and parents can decide to abandon their children. And we have like a kind of a signal in a law for recognizing children abandoned when they are born, which is NN. Nemo Nesh, which means I don't know the name. So I was curious to know this because I was working in this office, and this is like a kind of legal symbol to mean that that baby was abandoned in the hospital by his mother. And so because I was working in that office, I received from the Tribunal of Venezia this kind of papers because I was working in the office to look and find legal mentors for these babies in waiting for them to find a family to adopt them. So I was working.
What were the names that they were given?
Sorry?
What was the child named? Were they named by the parent or were they named by the hospital?
In this case, I just received the name. I don't know that if it was the name chosen in the hospital, I think. Yeah, it was the name chosen in the hospital. And then, you know, in the waiting, anyway, these babies need to have a legal representative. And I was working in the office, di Venezia, where we looked for people to look after these kids in the waiting for finding an adopting family.
Like a foster parent.
Yes.
See, like a legal representative as well.
So so it's more like and also some of them had to be given milk. So that's where Mama della latte comes from.
Yeah, in the past there was this kind of phenomenon. So from this nomen nation NN, I looked for the meaning. The origin is Latin. I don't know the name, which it's used, you know, to mean these abandoned children. And then anyway, the events were then for me to look for this story in Sicily, because anyway I'm Sicilian, and then I looked for these kids. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to go into chapter 2, and we just do the presentation now.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lucia.
Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to chapter 2.
Amazing.
That is so good.
Of knowing about Dr. Lucia Barbera. I feel very, very humbled, and I feel it's an honor to have you and to talk to you.
Call me,
and to, first of all, to know you, because everyone in your life comes for a reason. And
brava, I truly believe that as well.
Yeah, and to be able to share that with our amici on Sicilian Queens is even an honour, and I hope that you get to understand that and like this episode. Let us know if you've really enjoyed it, if you find it interesting, if you knew stuff about I Figli della ruota, which we're going to talk on the next episode. But to us, we find this, we're constantly evolving, Lina and I. We are constantly learning more and more.
Digging and know enough. Digging and digging.
Great. We learn every day something new.
You know, can I just share, what you probably don't know, Carmela, is when you invited me to your book launch in Sorrento, right? I rang Lucia and said, Lucia, you're coming with me to a book launch. She goes, what? I go, you're coming to me
And then I
with
said,
me.
yes.
Where? Andiamo. Where am I going? Sorrento. Oh, let's go. So, but she said, I'll let you know, right? So what she secretly did was arrange for her and her husband and 2 friends to book the restaurant where she knew I was going to be that day. I took my mum and my auntie.
Oh, yeah.
So the day I met you, you met Lucia because she
Yes.
came along
Do
on
you
that
remember?
day.
Do you remember?
I do remember. Especially that you were from Milazzo, I was taken over.
Il tono che tu... Ma ho detto, ma
I had no
incredibile.
idea.
E il ristorante, quella buona cucina siciliana che cucino. Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, I needed to tell you that. I didn't know that you knew that.
Le tarantelle, il wow.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah.
What
Awesome.
you know?
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to us and taking the time out of your evening to listen to us. And I hope that it's been of good value. Ci vediamo the next episode of Sicilian Queens.
Oh, can't wait to share the next episode with you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Buonasera.
Grazie.
Ciao.